So we now move on to the next session. Mr. Ramachandran, the Principal Consultant, Infosys Knowledge Institute, will have a conversation with a few role models. Ram, I hand over the panel to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to CII for the opportunity to be part of the Women in STEM project. It has been my privilege to lead the editorial team and the efforts. I think I must have had the most interesting part in this initiative, which is talking to all the achievers, each one of you here. Each one has done so much in their area, and that part is well documented. But when we designed their profile, when we started thinking about how to interview them, we wanted to bring out interesting moments in their career. So what we refer to as the aha moments or the eureka moments in their career. What are the challenges they face? How did they overcome them? Who were their role models? And most importantly, what was their message for young professionals, young girls, young women? So this discussion today is a continuation of my earlier interaction with them. We have three eminent experts who are tall leaders from their areas, information technology. We have Dr. Neeta Verma from manufacturing. We have Ms. Shubha. And from mechanical engineering or the education sector, we have Professor Sujata Chandra Mohan. So I'll get started. We'll start with Dr. Neeta Verma first. As all of you know, she is the Director General at National Informatics Center or NIC. NIC is like the CIO's office for our government, for our country. NIC provides the infrastructure required for the government's IT services. Arogya Setu today is the most used app globally for contact tracing during these pandemic times. It's the most downloaded government app, more than 200 million downloads. CoWIN app has been shared with 50 countries for them to use in their vaccination drives. Our Prime Minister recently launched e-rupee for digital payments. So this is just a summary. These are very exciting times for those interested in information technology. So, ma'am, Dr. Neeta, what is the next big killer app that we can expect from your team? What is happening in NIC? If you could share something with that, we can get started with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So thank you, Ram, and my greetings to all my fellow panelists and congratulations. And also thank you to CII for giving me this opportunity to share some of our work. Arogya Setu, as you know, was launched in the first week of April 2020 as a digital solution to contact tracing, which has data-driven AI models essentially to calculate the risk of an individual basis his social graph of his probability of catching a COVID infection. And accordingly, he is being alarmed or he is being informed to protect himself much before the infection itself manifests into symptoms, because as we've all seen, COVID continued to be asymptomatic for a long time, but during that time one was spreading the infection. And it has been also, because if you look at COVID, while it has helped doing this contact tracing in a big way with 200 million downloads, it has also been a very effective tool of communication of information, because you know, as COVID progressed, we had this symptoms profile changing. Accordingly, the advisories how to protect one was also changing as we go. Then there were also localized advisories because there were hotspots coming, there are containment zones coming. So it really helped in giving processed, focused information to individuals that how should they protect or what kind of precautions they should take with respect to themselves as well as with respect to their family and friends. So it has really done a huge job of communication, and communication in 12 different languages was a big help to in terms of, you know, making the, whenever you have these kind of pandemic, lot of information which is not true or fake information also travels all across. So how do you really communicate the correct information? How should one do, what should one not do? All that do's and don'ts was it was very effective, and I know how many times we changed those advisories as the infection or the virus profile was understood more and more. Another thing, if you look at it, it has a section called COVID updates, where every day, twice in a day, the information about COVID infection, its profile across India, across various states, is being updated. So this is the single most authentic source of communication of updates as far as what is the current status of the trends of the infection is concerned. In fact, if you look at Arogya Setu, though initially it was designed as a contact tracing app, but it is something which has been evolving. Primarily, we have been really taking it, leveraging this because it has those 200 million people connected with it. So now when the vaccination came, while COVID is a portal, but to book your vaccination schedule, which there were months which was a real challenge. This was the app through which you could easily go and book your vaccination schedules. Not only, and we realized, because though we have 700 million smartphone users in this country, but still we realize there are some people who will not have smartphones with them. Therefore, in this, we opened a facility called that you could also book vaccination schedules for your family members. And you could also receive certificates of yours and your family members. So it became an app for doing your vaccination schedule. Today, it is an app other than contact tracing and all. It is primarily an app to store your vaccination certificate. Using this, you can share your certificate with anyone in a format which can be electronically verified right there itself. And some of the places, public places, you must have seen when we travel, especially malls and cinema halls, they are scanning our QR code status of this thing, and from there they're gathering the information. Now, as we'll progress, I personally feel, and there have been discussions into it, because now in this you can not only store information about your vaccination, about your family's vaccination. So it could tomorrow also be introduced or kind of declared to be a common app for universal immunization program, so that it keeps your immunization details right from child's birth. And as we progress, as you know, initial years, there's a series of vaccinations in 1 day to take, right from polio, tuberculosis to all those things. So the complete vaccination schedule, instead of keeping those papers and keeping track, the one app, and since it's already there in Indian languages, could be a very primary source of keeping vaccination record of the children, and going forward of any individual. As we grow and when children become adults, there are different set of vaccinations prescribed. So complete vaccination, it could also manifest it's your vaccination, this thing. Going forward, so much of a national health, digital health mission has come. So it could also be considered to be an app where, because as you're using more, and one thing, if you've seen in Arogya Setu, was it's, in terms of its policy, it was very, very transparent. It always declared upfront how are we handling, what are the information we are capturing, how long we are going to keep it, how are we processing this going forward, and in what way we'll use it. So as it's being used, the people's trust on the app is increasing. It could tomorrow also be used to keep personal health records of the individual, as we are giving digital health identity. So Arogya Setu itself has a journey, and I'm really happy that it's evolving over time. Similarly, we have been doing a lot of work in the transport sector, whether it is your learning license, your driving license, or all services related to your driving license. Similarly, your vehicle registration, homologation, vehicle permits for commercial these things, your fast tag service, going forward to your pollution checks, which has to be periodically done, and then traffic violations, which one makes while driving on the road, and then going forward transport. So the whole lot of services. So we have digital platforms which take care of all these services, and we have an app which has about 10 million downloads, which is called M Parivahan. So we are working on now evolving this app into a super app for transport, so that all your requirements and all services which offered by the government, and going forward, even if it's offered by state governments or even public authorities, or even private sector, all those apps through a single sign-on in what you could get all your services around the transport or around your vehicle, whether it is personal vehicle or a commercial vehicle, whether it is your traffic challan. You remember M-Parivahan was introduced when the traffic rules had come as a primary app to have your virtual DL and virtual RC, so that you don't have to carry your, if you're not carrying, you're not challaned for that purpose. It was declared an app. But we thought, since already 10 million people are using, we could take it further and make it a single app to do single app across India to avail any service. These services are something 150 services are there, which is even today, if you see a whole of this spectrum. All this could be offered through a single sign-on at one place. So soon, I mean, it's in the process. So sometime later, we are going to announce that app. Similarly, there are a couple of other domains where we have recently also announced an app which is for the visa purposes, which is all the foreign visitors who are visiting India can make avail of this app for not only applying their visa once they come. They can use this app to even avail all local facilities in terms of while they're traveling, getting all information about local enforcement authority, local law and order authorities. You want to contact police station, you want to contact nearest hospital or anything, or you want to have any kind of visa services if you have to extend your stay, or you have lost your card and so on. If you want to go to those places where extra permit is needed, so all that is also being kind of packed into one app, so that right from when they travel, they can capture their visa on that app, and everywhere, whatever formalities, C form, X form, whatever they have to fill, they can simply get the QR code scan. No filling of information is needed, and they can carry all their documents on their app. So these kind of consolidation of services into a single app across the entire sector is one of the focus area for us as we go forward.
Thank you, ma'am. That's very reassuring to see how information technology is helping us manage this pandemic. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. So let's shift our focus to manufacturing now. We have Ms. Shubha Kumar with us. She's a managing director for Natesan Group. She has created a culture of innovation to design and indigenously manufacture new materials, new products in her company, Natesan Group. So, Ms. Shubha, what Dr. Neeta spoke about shows that we have achieved self-sufficiency when it comes to information technology, but manufacturing is another strong sector in our economy. So can you please share your thoughts on how are we progressing on Atmanirbhar Bharat? What are we going to do about it? Yeah. I think you're on mute, Shubha.
Thank you very much for having me here, CII, and Ram, thanks for the question. Going after Dr. Neeta Verma, I think I have a huge shoe to fill in there. So manufacturing accounts for about 15% of India's GDP. And India having a large population, we have a good market for most products. So Atmanirbhar Bharat basically means being self-reliant. But if we are self-reliant, not only will we not have imports, but we can also use our products and export them to the world. Coming to how, if you're asking me a scorecard, if we do a branding, we'd say, okay, German is famous for engineering, Japan is for quality, and China is manufacturing, and India is IT. I think it's more of a branding issue. I think we've done quite a bit in manufacturing in India, but there is still a long way to go. So the government has recognized Atmanirbhar Bharat in manufacturing as a key priority and introduced a number of production-linked incentive schemes for various sectors. Automobile and auto component being one of the key sectors in that, pharmaceuticals, steel. We'll talk about electronics and technology, telecom products, for example. Here, if you see, we have no fabs in India. This is a large gap in a complete manufacturing sector. And the government is now doing a lot of programs to bring such technologies into the country. So if you ask me, we're on the right track. Maybe in a couple of years, we could get completely self-reliant. With the semiconductor shortage, these are being accentuated even more, where we need to only import some of these things. So defense and aerospace is another key sector. I mean, electric vehicle, the advanced chemistry cell is one of the PLI schemes introduced by the government. PLI is basically a production-linked incentive scheme. So the government is taking some programs in those areas. But looking at aerospace and defense, we spend about 2.5% of our GDP on defense. And majority of the spend is spent on imports. So this is again a priority sector when it comes to domestic manufacturing. So your second part of the question is what have we done as Natesan towards this? So as a company, we've been focused on import substitution from the beginning, and we even received the Government of India Award for Technology Development. our philosophy is to provide technically differentiated products for India and the world. So not just being a cost competitive in the market, of course, that's a necessity, but that is not our selling point. To be able to have products that we can compete on a global landscape is very important. Some of the products we make are actually made by the global OEMs and tier ones in the automotive space within their factories. They are not actually bought from suppliers. So we've been able to substitute our production from India to replace their in-house production in global locations, including Western Europe. So this, to me, is been part of our DNA. In terms of what we have on pipeline, we have some products for import substitution in the electric two-wheeler space, in electric vehicles. In the aerospace and defense side, India has typically got technologies from global leaders in the world, which we have. There's only one company in the country which manufactures aircrafts, and they have been given licenses by number of companies in the world that allow us to manufacture these. But still, a number of key technologies are imported by us. So what we in Natesan are doing is to develop some aero engine components, which positions us to be a competitive supplier in the global civil aviation landscape. So I think we're continuing that. If you're looking at disruptive technologies like additive manufacturing, again, additive manufacturing, you can probably put in a print and get out a part, but it's not so simple. There are new complexities and challenges that come out in terms of, for example, the surface finish could not be okay. And there are a lot of post-processings that are required in the world of additive manufacturing. So we are looking at these as key differentiators and we are building some capabilities in these areas. And we're also looking at developing some new coatings and materials for improved performance. So this is kind of what we are doing, our little contribution to the Atmanirbhar journey. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you, Ms. Shiva. So you said the context, you spoke about aerospace and defense. So who better than Professor Sujata Chandramohan? So we have Professor Sujata from IIT Madras with us. She's from the machine design section in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at IIT Madras. She loves to work on machines. She has probably spent more time inside helicopters and military tanks for her field studies than any of her colleagues. So, Professor, there has been a drop in enrollment for engineering in our country recently. The numbers may not look so good even for girl student enrollments. So what should we do as a country to revive the interest in hardcore areas like STEM for youngsters? If you could share your thoughts with us.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor, please go ahead.
Okay. See, I would say that the numbers are not dropping. We could increase the numbers, I would put it that way. The number of girls enrolling for engineering in institutions like IIT Madras or any of the other IITs is very low, for the simple reason that entrance to IITs is essentially through JEE, and it's almost imperative that you undergo coaching in order to be able to get into IITs. And these coaching sessions are not easy. Many times you'll find that they are either late in the evening or early in the morning, and they may be at locations far away from home. So parents are reluctant to send their girls to these coaching centers. That's why you find that the number of women students in institutions like IITs is very low. But if you were to look at the number of girl students in other engineering colleges where essentially the admission is through the marks that students have scored in their 12th standard, there I would say that the numbers are not so bad. Okay, so now earlier the the percentage of girls used to be like 8% in BTechs. Now we have this 20% supernumerary quota which has been introduced, and with that we hope that the percentage of girls getting into IITs will improve. Also, probably the pandemic now has forced everyone to go into virtual learning. Girls will no longer have to physically go to classes. Hopefully, even after the pandemic ends, I hope that people, girls will be able to take virtual classes, and with that I hope the number of girl students will increase. Also earlier there used to be this problem that students had to go to different engineering colleges or different universities and take specific entrance examinations for them. Okay, so having to take multiple entrance exams used to be difficult, but now with unification of some of these entrance exams, I think that also is going to make things easier for girl students.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So talking about virtual education brings us back to information technology again. So my next question for Dr. Neeta Verma. Ma'am, India has been a technology giant as we have been discussing, but there has been a complaint that there has been no Google, Facebook, or any Twitter type of products that have grown from India. But we have stories like Arogya Setu, which are phenomenal success stories. So what should young professionals interested in IT in India focus on to bring out such cutting-edge software products? If you could share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. It is not that in India we have such vibrant, such dynamic startup industries, such a private industry. It's not that we can't build Google, so we can't put Facebook and the similar, the Twitter and all. With these kind of social, if you look at Google, it's primarily, it has an early mover advantage and has an advantage of this data. Because of this search, the quality of search or the user experience is primarily getting with the kind of data and applying data analytics or AI models with it, with which you get. So that whole user behavior data or user search data is giving them an edge. So today, even if someone writes even a better code than what Google has, because of this lack of data, that experience giving in is a problem. So the challenge is that while you have one big giant already there, how do you really give advantage to this person who has done, or this small company who has done? I mean, that is where one really need to deliberate. I do not have any direct answer except that government surely should give push, but perhaps it has to be a lot of combination of an ecosystem. I mean, where we also have to feel the way sometimes we feel about, Swadesh or Atmanirbhar or my country kind of a thing. Maybe some kind of a that is needed. So it's primarily because of this data they are getting an edge, in which despite having technology we feel. Even if you look at this Facebook, Twitters, these are essentially social networks. Social networks primarily depend on, I mean, the whole power comes in how many people are connected to this network. So even if, as you know, a number of very good apps came up in India also by the startups. But the challenge is that how do they, and this is a human behavior. I'm already used to working on WhatsApp. I'm already used to working on Instagram. How will you move me from, because it is not the question of me moving, my whole network has to move for me to get that experience. And that is where essentially a challenge is coming. It is not at all a technology issue. It's more of an issue of how do you really achieve or address this particular challenge. And having said that, as we were saying in Atmanirbhar, while there has been a lot of focus and which is very much needed as far as electronics is concerned, manufacturing in electronics is concerned, fab and all is very much needed, because and we've been always already we have started feeling pinch of it. But I feel India already always had an edge on the software part of it, world over. We should leverage our that strength, and we should really with an equal pursuance we should follow development of software products which could become universal products. I mean, there's still a whole lot of market where we could really penetrate and kind of put it. So that's the area, because there we have inherent strength within the country which we should kind of leverage. And unlike electronics, it is not that high cost initial capex or investment is needed for that matter. And with this philosophy only, during the pandemic, we as along with ministry had opened this innovative app challenges. And in this app, we had basically tried to identify and recognize and reward those startups who are doing apps which are very useful to Indians in particular, which for their day-to-day activities and all. One of the app which I like to tell you was our video. Because that time, video conference was one of the key thing across that everybody was basically interacting socially and officially on a video platform. So we did this VC app challenge, and there was a small company called Tech Gensia in the small town of Kerala, Alappu. These people won the this app challenge, and as a part of this, we not only recognized and rewarded them, we kind of gave them a contract, and we worked with them. We mentored that product to the kind of security which government platform will require, and named it as Bharat VC. And today, a large part of government video conference happens on that platform, which is done by that small startup at that place. So these, and now we are thinking of doing similar initiatives, couple of other similarly cutting edge and kind of platforms which is needed across the board. Again, trying to kind of work on that. So this is one mechanism through which, as government, we are trying to promote these initiatives. There were one app challenge for the games app also, and number of others, because VC I was directly associated, and we've then mentored. It was a beautiful experience, and this whole Bharat VC is working so beautifully. And not only it is giving us a huge cost advantage, it is also giving us that feel that this product is completely built in India. It resides in our own data centers, and we have a complete visibility into the whole thing. So security also gets addressed. So these kind of initiatives, I think we need to do on a much larger scale to identify these startups, then give them this opportunity to scale and work, and then lead them to fly to build business around other countries. So similar such initiatives is one thing. At the same time, we are also, like, we have built one instant messaging app for initially, which is called Sandesh, which is primarily today is being used for the government communication, among the government communication, and we've also opened it communication from government to citizens. So whatever, whenever you apply for any service or any kind of a subsidy or anything to the government platforms, we're trying to see that all that communication to you, which today goes through SMS, something goes through email, if all could go through a single app like Sandesh, it'll be very easy for one to track those things as going forward. And unlike SMS, you'll be able to send much more information, hyperlinks, audio, video, when you use a platform like this. So similar kind of initiatives from the perspective of government, we at NIC are doing, and to encourage startups, this whole ecosystem needs to. But I think it is a responsibility each one of us as an Indian to make sure that to encourage these apps, to try and shift on these apps, because only when we see this CII app came, if more and more of us will shift on it, that's where its value will start coming. So we also have a role to play if you want to see those kind of platforms coming. But technically, I'm 100% strong we can do even better products in India.
Thank you, ma'am. It's very inspiring to hear these success stories from you. Thanks for sharing them. So, Ms. Shubha, coming back to you, in manufacturing, we definitely have this early mover advantage. We have always had a strong foundation in our country. But like other sectors, manufacturing is also undergoing a lot of change globally. So what is the future of manufacturing for our country? What should those who are looking to succeed in manufacturing as a career do? What should they do?
Sure. So let me start with the automobile industry. The automobile, as we know today, is changing dramatically. The three major trends are electric, autonomous, and connected vehicles. So the vehicles are becoming more like computers controlled by software. I think to Dr. Neeta Verma's point, cars are going to be more software than hardware. And to ensure connectivity and the range of the vehicle for electric vehicles, a number of smart devices are going to be connected to these vehicles. You're going to have computers, cameras, infotainment, and a lot of these other things attached to these, making it truly high tech. And if you see, even the body of the car is changing. A lot of lightweighting, newer lightweighting composites are being introduced. 3D printing is being introduced. And more importantly, the number of moving parts in an automobile is going to go from 100 plus moving parts to one moving part, which is a motor in an electric vehicle. So if you see, there are a lot of changes coming from a product side. In addition to these, we are also having disruptions in manufacturing itself. For example, you're having additive manufacturing. We're traditionally used to removing material, but additive manufacturing is a big change where we add layer by layer. You have digital technologies, you have automation, you have AI. So tomorrow's factories will be looking nothing like what they do today. So let me just dwell on a little bit of examples to explain what I mean. Let's take the example of additive manufacturing. So if you can make intricate shapes, newer designs which were not possible will now be possible and considered. Manufacturing earlier was mass manufactured, now custom manufacturing is possible. And you can deliver to an individual customer's need because you can customize the product. It doesn't need to be B2B. It can go to a B2C. Let's take digital, for example. Today, for example, in the CAD CAM world, people will take a model, they'll simulate it and then say, okay, this is the program, and put it into the program. And assume that the simulations that they've run are right for how the tool holders are, how the cutting parameters are, and so on. But in the future world, you'll have a closed loop system where, you just put in the model, you have a lot of sensors connected to the part, you know exactly what's happening under actual operating conditions. And based on this, the condition of the operations will be changed. Now, moving to AI, we can envision a world where complete manufacturing is AI driven, where a model is sent, an AI algorithm just takes the model, gives out the program, and a finished part arrives out of the manufacturing system. So this is not unconceivable. There are actually companies in the world that are beginning to talk about doing these. Then we can talk about automation. This has been done in a number of industries, but in India, it's not yet very prevalent, which is lights out manufacturing, where there's zero manpower on the shop floor. This is another big change that's going to happen in terms of employment, in terms of opportunities, and newer business models are coming up. We're talking about Uber of manufacturing. What does that mean? Basically, if I'm a buyer and I want to buy a part from somebody, I'm contracted with a single supplier in a single region. But if there is a flooding or a natural calamity, for me to resource the part is very hard. So I would just go to this platform and ask them to give me, instead of this taxi, I would get the next taxi. So the next manufacturing setup would basically take this part and they will be able to supply me the part. And there are actually companies already that are getting funded to do these things. What this does is, for small job shops, they get steady work, and for buyers, it de-risks them and gives them price advantages. So there is so much, change happening in the manufacturing sector. I think it's a very exciting world. I've talked more about AI, software, and all this fancy stuff. And one doesn't think of manufacturing. They think, oh, it's the dull world where nothing much happens and it's, old world technologies. So for the people who want to do exciting things in manufacturing, I think there is a lot to be done. The future will be in the hands of those who embrace cutting edge technologies. And not focusing on cost. Like I said earlier, if you focus on adopting these technologies and tools and seeing how you can create new sources of differentiation, I think this would be a very large thing for companies to undertake. And in terms of, let me say, engineering graduates or science graduates, I don't think we need to feel bad if we are not in the AI or computer science program. We need deep subject matter expertise to be able to build these AI systems. So a person in mechanical engineering or in material science or in any other area or in electronics would have the deep knowledge that's required to build these systems. And they could pick up the AI skills or partner with people with AI skills. And together is how these things will happen. So I see a very bright future for the next upcoming generation, as long as we focus on, keeping ourselves relevant, focusing on cutting edge technologies, and doing whatever we do with great enthusiasm. I think we can succeed as individuals, and together as companies and as a country, we can be totally self-reliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shubha. That was very motivating to understand that there are career options other than IT out there. So let's come back to Professor again. Professor, fieldwork plays a key role in STEM, starting from a factory to an iron ore mine. So has the ecosystem evolved in India to be more friendly for women, for girls? What more improvement is required? How can we encourage young engineers to venture out into the field, get their hands dirty, and not just limit themselves to what Ms. Shubha calls the IT part of it, right? So how do we encourage more students to get out into the field and work on hardcore engineering?
Actually, when I started my career, mechanical engineering was a field which, parents wouldn't want their daughters to be in. Okay, it used to be thought of as a man's world, and things are changing. When I initially went on my field visits, quite often I found that there were no ladies' toilets. In many of the industries I visited, I would have to use the men's toilet. Okay, and I found that even in many of the professional colleges, many buildings wouldn't have ladies' toilets. There might be some centrally located ladies' toilet, but not in every building. But now I think people are becoming a little more sensitive, and things are changing. I've had the I've been able to make measurements in very adverse kinds of scenario, like you mentioned, in say a military tank, in CVRD ordnance factory. Then we visited heavy industries like BHEL and power generation stations, punch presses. We've done measurements in all these sort of harsh environments. And also maybe say in officers training academy or Coast Guard services and helicopters. So I would say that I've been lucky to do such really heavy kind of work, where I often used to be the only woman around and all the people surrounding me used to be men. But I've found that generally people have been nice, and I would like to stress that the kind of exposure or the feel you get for a particular system when you do experimental work, you do not get when you just sit in your design office or do some finite element analysis. When you actually complement your theory with measurements and you're able to validate your results, the kind of satisfaction that you get is really phenomenal. So if you really want to, ensure that there are more women going into such difficult work, then I think one thing is, of course, you should have good role models. If you have good role models, then people feel like, taking it up. Like, Mary Com inspired so many women in the Northeast. So if you find that there are women doing such work, I'm sure younger generation students will also be tempted to take on difficult tasks. We should make sure that all industries have proper ladies' restrooms, lounges where they can relax, then maybe lactation centers. Okay, all industries should provide good quality creches. Okay, so that women will not feel like leaving the kids back home when they want to do field work. And finally, the women themselves should not have the notion that, they cannot do such work. I would say that we women are really strong. We have patience, and then we can do multitasking. So I think we should change the notion that we are only fit for design offices or IT or software kind of jobs. We are equally fit to do hard jobs like this also. So
Thank you.
yeah.
You are definitely a role model for youngsters to go out and do such field work. So as you can see, we can keep talking to our three esteemed panelists here and also the other accomplishers. So that's the fun part I had. We can keep on talking. So in the interest of time, let me stop here. You can read more about what they have done, also the other accomplishers in the book that has been released. Their profiles and probably the videos also will be shared later. So thanks so much to Dr. Neeta Verma, Ms. Shubha, and Professor Sujata for taking their valuable time to be part of this panel discussion. Thank you so much, Madhu. Over to you. We had a very nice panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. Thank you, Ram. The executive committee was about 8-9 of women, and Ram has been very patient with us since last October. We used to call him in odd times, give him last-minute requests for interviews with the shortlisted women. Ram, you've been very, very patient with us, very accommodative. We just want to place on record our appreciations to your guidance and support. So I request Mr. Anu Sriram to do a small felicitation for Mr. Ramchandran.
Pleasure has been absolutely mine. Thank you so much, Madhu,
Yeah,
and the rest of the team.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Ram. I think especially you personally spend time in talking to these women and bringing out the best so that these stories inspire more women to achieve in the STEM area. And I'm sure it will be a very inspiring book for many people to refer to. So we really appreciate, and here is a small memento from us. In appreciation of the excellent contribution in profiling the success stories of Indian women in STEM through an e-book. So please accept our appreciation.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. The pleasure is completely mine. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Ram. You are becoming more required in CII. There's a request from Southern Region and National Startup Center to connect you. I will do that in the subsequent weeks. Thank you.